Welcome to the distance learning packet for IM2. This is the notes for week 6. So we are going to start with this question. What is the quadratic formula? Remember, we had something like this. 2x squared plus 4x plus 9. Then we did the diamond method of factoring. Okay, where we did this and we found a bunch of numbers. Then we get something like x something, then parentheses x equals to something else. Okay, we did something like this. Remember, this was the process of factoring. We did the diamond method, but this time sometimes you have a formula. Okay, the formula that we are going to do today, but again, it's the same part of factoring. It's something called the quadratic equation or the quadratic formula. Okay, and it's an equation or a formula that helps you factor. This is what it does. This helps you get the factors. All right, same process as before. What is the quadratic formula? It's to help you get it into factored form. What is the quadratic formula? It helps you get the factors. What is the quadratic formula? It's factoring. All right, that's what it is. So what is the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula can be written as x is equal to negative b plus or minus, there means there's going to be two parts, the plus part and the minus part, the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's going to be divided by 2a. The reason why this is actually used for, because remember, sometimes the a value here is a different number. It's not always 1. The quadratic formula is beautiful in the sense that it can get you the factors for anything. Sometimes it turns out ugly, sometimes it turns out pretty. Okay, but this is the quadratic formula. Next, I want you to understand, when do we use the quadratic formula? Let me give you two problems. You might have something like x squared plus 6x plus 9. Then you might have something like 2x squared plus 4x plus 7. I'm just going to write out a couple of things. A here is 1. B here is 6. C here equals to 9. Here, A equals to 22. B equals to 4. C equals to 7. Notice here, this is A equals to 1. Very beautiful. This is easy to factor. So you might use your diamond method, whatever. Here, this is not 1. Okay, this is not easy to factor. Therefore, for this case, when it's not 1, not easy to factor, you should use the quadratic equation. There you go. Or the quadratic formula. I call it the equation. The answer, when should you use the quadratic equation? When a is not 1. That's it. Setting up the quadratic equation. Let's do that. You are going to start something like this. 3 x squared minus 5x minus 8. That's going to be equal to 0. Notice the a here is not 1. Okay, so I'm just going to write it here. A equals to 1. B equals to -5. And C equals to 8. Oh, no. I always make A as my green. B equals to -5. And C equals to 8. -8. Okay? This is the first step. This is the first step. This is the first step. Right? To get A, B, C, and D. Good? Then you want to, there's an intermediate step by you're going to write the formula. So you're going to write the formula. Alright, start writing it. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Close that off. Then you're going to all divide this by 2a. Good. Step 2, you want to make the substitution. So here, I'm going to select this. Bring it down here. Okay. Now I'm going to start substituting it. All right. So, do you see this is -b? -b was this, -5. Alright. Then B here was also, -5. This was also -5. A was 3. So, and C was what value? -8. Do you see how I'm putting it in and it looks weird? Because you should put it in a parentheses. When you make the substitution, make sure you put it in parentheses. Alright? So you can see what it is. Alright? Because this looks like 43, right? Put it in a parentheses. Parentheses that. Then lastly, 2a. Erase that. Bring the 3 here over. There you go. Good. So this is the first couple of steps. Now, this is very easy to do because these equations, I'll move this to the side, will always allow you to have a calculator. All right. All you have to do now is just plug into the calculator. What I recommend that you do when you plug this into the calculator, if you really want to get it correct, is you can write this if you have the new calculator, but if you have your phone, I recommend that you do the inside first. So a lot of people will say something like, simplify the radical. So part 3, you're going to simplify the radical. Notice the number out in front. Let me just bring this over. So notice this is negative times a negative. That becomes a positive. So this goes away and this becomes a positive 5. -5 squared. That just becomes a positive 25. And then you have 4 times 3 times -8. But you see how there's a -4 times 3 times -8? That's going to get you a plus 96. Then you're going to all divide that by 2 times 3, which is going to be 6. Alright. Notice this is easier to work with. Alright. So there's a little bit more steps I'm just going to do. 25 plus 96 becomes 121 divided by 6. This is the reason why you shouldn't use a calculator, because you're going to get a weird decimal. Okay? Notice this is a good step to have. This is all part of step 3. Now you need to do what the square root of 125 is 121. If you don't know that, that is going to be your 11. So you have the number 5 here, plus or minus this square root. Notice square root 121 becomes 11. So this is going to be plus or minus 11 divided by 6. So your answers is x is equal, what's 5 plus 11? I think this is 16 over 6. And you have x is equal to, what's 5 minus 11? You can't really plug this in your calculator unless you do it twice, because there's a plus and a minus, and now I'm going to do the minus. Okay, I'm going to do so this is the addition part, this is going to be the minus part here. You're not going to understand what I mean. This is the 5 plus 11. This is the 5 plus 11 part divided by 6. And there's going to be the 5 minus 11. Do you see how there's two different answers? Okay. Bring this down really quick. Notice that the two answers are going to, this one is now 5 plus 11 is 16, so this is 16 over 6. X is equal to 5 minus 11. I think that is negative 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's negative 6. Negative 6. Ooh, it's already negative. Negative 6 over 6. Oh, this one simplifies to just negative 1. But there you go. Those are all your answers. That's how you do a problem. This is all the problems in detail. Write the formula. Step 2 is make the substitution. 3, simplify. And make sure there are 4 this is basically step 4. Okay, this is your substitute. I don't know how to spell it. 3 is your simplify, and 4 is your, these are your two answers. Okay, there's going to be the plus part and the minus part. Next, we are going to understand sometimes you cannot take the radical. I would like you to notice something. Do you see that the square root of 121 is equal to 11 here? And this was easy. Sometimes it's not. Let's say you go back and you have, let's say, in step 3. So we're going to revisit step 3. And you have something like x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 176. Okay? And we divide that by negative 6. What you can do here is that we know that, first of all, you're going to get lucky here, that the square root of 176 does become 41. So you have 4 plus or minus, well, it doesn't become 141. Let me say 176 can be broken down. Give me a second. Let me pause this and let me do the math, okay? Okay. The square root of 176 can be broken down into square root 16 times square root 11. Here we know that the square root of 16 becomes 4. And we're going to multiply that to 11. Simplify this. X is equal to 4 plus or minus 4 radical 11 divided by 4. Alright. So here, notice that this is 4 plus 4 radical 11, right? This is not very pretty to work with, okay? Technically, you would just want to leave your answer here. Make sure you just simplify this, okay? Do you see how this was simplified? That's it. Good. Sometimes you cannot, sometimes let's say it was something like in step 3, x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 151. 151 is actually a prime number, and you can't do anything about it, so you just have to leave it here. Okay? Good? This is how you deal with that radical part. If you take the root, keep going. What I mean by here is, let's say you have x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 121 divided by 6. Note that the square root of 121 is equal to 11. Okay, so x is equal to 5 plus or minus square root 11. It's no longer square root 11. It's plus or minus 11. And we're going to divide that by 6 because the square root 121 is equal to 11. That square root disappears. Okay? There are two answers here. Okay? There are two answers here. X is equal to 5. And there are two answers here. Hold on. I'm just going to write them out. The first one is going to be your plus 11. Then your two answers are going to be minus 11. Then you would finish it here. Okay? But notice there are two answers here. Good? So, if you take the square root, keep going. Please understand sometimes you cannot actually deal with the square root. Okay? Or we call this the radical. Okay? I know that was long. But here we understand what is the quadratic equation used for. When do we use it? Here's a detailed example of how to use it. And this is a little fine detail about the radical. Okay? And keep going. Please understand this is one of the easiest ways to factor. Okay? But a lot of students get bogged down. Okay? A large percentage of the time this is going to be pretty, but in real life it's ugly. Okay? But try to do this. I know this is difficult, but this is going to save your life in IM3 when you have to factor. So practice now. All right? But there you go. These are all your solution. These are all your notes for the first page.